Okay, so you know that video we did
Yeah.
on the fast party leaders' bail conditions?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of blew up a little
It
bit.
blew up.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's probably our most watched video on the Inati Creative channel.
I think you're right. And the comments section.
Oh my God.
Wild, right? All these different opinions and perspectives.
And people,
But what's going on in Samoa?
yeah, people really have a lot to say about, eh, the accusations of corruption and the kind of the whispers of murder and the alleged cover-ups.
It's a lot to process.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why we're here today.
Yeah.
Doing this deep dive into what people really want to see happen.
Yeah, it's like we're taking the temperature of Samoa.
Exactly.
What are people thinking and feeling, and what are they hoping for?
Yeah, we should be clear that we're not here to pick sides or endorse any particular viewpoint.
Not at all.
Our goal is just to unpack these different perspectives and try to make sense of it all.
I think it's really interesting the variety and the breadth of opinion that's coming out.
Yeah, and really the intensity of these opinions.
Oh, yeah.
We're seeing some people just fiercely defending Lali Lamaliatoa,
Right.
saying he's a victim of a corrupt system.
Yeah, and those comments often, kind of point fingers at the prime minister.
Right.
Like, is she involved in some kind of cover-up or,
Yeah.
is she acting unjustly?
Yeah, and then there are others who believe the prime minister is simply upholding the law.
Yeah.
They say that due process has to be followed and that charges don't automatically equal guilt.
Right, right.
And then there's another whole layer that I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
Those comments that suggest that people who weren't born in Samoa might not fully understand
The nuance, yeah.
the Fa-Samoa way,
Right.
which is like the traditional Samoan culture and values.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, hey, you gotta consider the cultural context here to really understand what's happening.
And that raises some really interesting questions about how traditional cultural values intersect with,
Right.
with Western democratic principles and legal systems.
Yeah, like how does that cultural lens shape how people are viewing this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think to really unpack this, we need to look at some specific themes that emerged from the comments.
Okay, where should we start?
Well, one that jumped out at me was this idea of justice being served or not served, depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
There were so many comments about alleged corruption within the police and judicial system.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of distrust that comes out in a lot of these comments.
Definitely. And some people were specifically referencing unsolved murder cases,
Yeah.
implying that, there's a history of things being kind of swept under the rug.
Yeah, just not being addressed.
Like one comment that really stood out to me said, quote,
Yeah.
"The Prime Minister Fiame swept all these murderers' cases under the carpet and tried to blame the innocent man, Lali Limaliatoa. He is a well-known humble man who cares and loves his people in Samoa," end quote.
Yeah, and you can feel the injustice
Yes.
that commenter is feeling, right? They see Lali Limaliatoa as being a scapegoat,
Absolutely.
targeted by a system that's just protecting itself.
Totally. And that same sentiment
Yeah.
was echoed in other comments, sometimes with even stronger language.
Right.
One commenter said,
Yeah.
quote, "The corruption in Samoa started from Parliament to the Supreme Court to the police department,
Wow.
trying to put Lali Limaliatoa in jail because they know if Lali Limaliatoa become a prime minister of Samoa, they all gonna be fef."
Oh my God.
End quote. Strong words.
It is, wow, that's raw
It is
emotion right there.
raw emotion. Yeah. But then, of course, we also see a very different perspective
Yes.
from those who believe in the presumption of innocence.
Right.
They're arguing that Lali Limaliatoa hasn't been proven guilty
Yeah.
and that due process needs to be allowed to run its course. This comment kind of captures that nuance quote.
Okay.
Another issue, people cite the law innocent until proven guilty as to why they believe Fiame in error of asking Lali to resign or step down from being minister.
Okay.
However, Fiame cites her stance resulting from Parliament action.
Okay.
Her critics say she was swayed by HRPP. Fast has removed her from the party,
Yeah.
though their policies say one has to resign and Fiame had not.
Okay.
Question is, therefore, how many charges make one guilty? Very delicate situation here.
It is.
End quote.
So delicate.
Delicate indeed.
Yeah, it's not just about legal guilt or innocence. It's about, the politics, the party loyalties, all these other factors
All these other things.
that are influencing how people see things.
Yeah, it's a tangled web.
It is a tangled web.
And speaking of tangled webs,
Okay.
let's talk about this cultural context piece.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the comments really emphasize
Oh.
the importance of understanding Fa-Samoa.
Yeah.
Like one person wrote, quote, Many programs on social media forget this very context and align their narratives against the backdrop of the strict Fapalaji black and white values and that of the Samoa huge gray areas, values that drive the principles of democracy in Samoa.
Mm-hmm.
Our Samoan people born offshore must not lose sight of that fact, as they would be more prone to confusions due to their appreciation of the Fapalaji black and white letter of the laws and values that envelop the environment they grew up in.
Okay.
How the political and administrative developments within the democratic principles framework play out in Samoa would be interesting.
Okay.
End quote.
Yeah, so this is urging us to consider that Samoa way.
Right.
Which is the traditional Samoan way of life, their customs, their values, and saying that that might not always align perfectly with Western legal and political norms.
So it's not as simple as just looking at the charges or the political statements.
Yeah.
We have to factor in the culture.
Absolutely.
To really grasp what's going on.
It's a layer of complexity.
Yeah. And I thought it was really cool that somebody actually praised us for acknowledging that.
Oh, nice.
They said, quote, "Love the way you suss out and sift through the complexities of the Samoan political turmoil as it struggles to balance out the Fapalaji black and white values and that of the Samoa huge gray areas values that drive the principles of democracy in Samoa."
I love that comment. That means that we're on the right track. You know, it's not about taking sides. It's about recognizing that there's this really complex interplay of culture and politics and justice.
It's nuanced.
Nuanced.
Okay, so we've talked about justice being served in the cultural context.
Right.
Now I think we need to look at this theme of political power dynamics and the public's distrust of those in power.
Yes.
That came up a lot.
Yeah, you can feel the frustration in some of these comments.
Oh, yeah, like this one quote.
Yeah.
"The ex-prime minister is very jealous about this one. MP, Samoa is a very small country, but very corrupt." End quote.
Okay, so they're suggesting that it's the same people who've been in power for too long,
right,
leading to cronyism and just a lack of accountability.
Yeah, and this isn't just a Samoan issue.
No.
If we look at the bigger picture, this happens in a lot of countries.
Yeah.
With political upheaval.
Yeah, when power gets concentrated in the hands of a few.
Yeah.
It just breeds corruption.
It really does. And you see this distrust so clearly in comments like, quote, "Corruption is real in Samoa.
Right.
The police in Samoa are so corrupt."
Mm-hmm.
There's this sense that the system is just rigged against the people.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder what happens when that frustration reaches a boiling point. Right. Could we see unrest protests, even calls for radical change?
Potentially. Yeah. And some of the comments, especially from Laliatoa's supporters, they seem to hint at that. Like they view him as this person who can disrupt the status quo and bring about these needed reforms.
Yeah, like a savior almost.
There's a comment that reads, quote, "God bless you, Laliatoa."
Wow.
End quote.
Yeah.
It's almost like
it's a very
messianic. Right. Yeah. They're longing for this leader to deliver them from injustice.
It really speaks to that deep desire for change.
Yes.
That hope that someone can come in and fix things.
Okay, so we've got this whole thing.
Yeah.
Alleged corruption, the cultural context, political power, plays a public that's frustrated and wanting change.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a very complex picture.
But amid all this, there's another theme that I kept seeing in the comments.
What's that?
A desire for clarity and transparency.
Yeah, people want to understand what's going on. Yeah. They want the truth.
A lot of people commented on how much they appreciated the clarity of our original video.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're asking for more content that cuts through the noise and helps them understand.
Right. They don't want the spin.
Exactly like this comment. Quote, "Need more videos like this really talk about the issue, not rubbish." End quote.
It's like they're saying, okay, we need you to help us make sense of this.
Exactly.
This is chaotic. We need reliable information.
Yeah, and that need for transparency goes beyond just information.
Yes.
They want accountability.
Yes, from the government.
From the media.
From everybody.
Yeah.
There were a lot of comments calling for further investigation, further analysis, like this one. Quote, "Thanks for giving us a glimpse of how convoluted the Samoan political situation is and how even your video report is as directionless and aimless like the Samoan political and judicial processes, and especially with the seemingly incompetence of basic criminal investigation work by Samoan police in solving an alleged crime.
Okay.
which also points the finger at political implications and repercussions for the parties involved, which has complicated the police workload in solving a very open and shut case of an allegedly HIT-and-run road accident.
Wow.
End quote.
So they want a real investigation.
Yeah. One that's not driven by political agendas or personal biases.
Exactly. It's about getting to the truth, whatever that truth may be.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people feel like that truth is still elusive.
Yeah. And it really brings us back to this idea of public opinion, you know, when people feel like they're not being heard, when they feel like the truth is being obscured, that's when that frustration
bubbles up.
Yeah, like a pressure cooker.
Yeah. If there's no outlet.
Exactly.
It's it
can get messy.
Get messy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do here today.
Yeah. Create
that space.
Yeah, a space for dialogue.
For dialogue to sift through all this complexity.
Yeah, and to really try to make sense of it together. But you know, we have to remember that these comments, they're not just isolated opinions, right? They're part of this larger conversation that's happening online.
Absolutely.
And you know, that conversation can be amplified and distorted by social media.
We see that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
In the comments.
Yeah.
Accusations of, being Lolly's cows or blindly following the prime minister.
Yeah, it's like people dig in.
They dig in.
And they're not willing to even consider another perspective.
It's that echo chamber.
It is the echo chamber.
And it's dangerous.
It's dangerous because it leads to more polarization, more distrust.
Yeah.
And it makes it really hard to find solutions to these problems.
It does.
So you know, social media can be a great tool for sharing information, for amplifying voices.
Absolutely.
But we have to be mindful of how it can also be used.
Be careful.
To create division and
misinformation.
Misinformation, exactly. Whoa. So we all have a responsibility to be careful about what we're reading, to seek out different perspectives.
Multiple perspectives.
And to engage respectfully.
Yes, even when we disagree.
Especially when we disagree.
And that brings us back to the importance of listening to those voices of the Samoan people, even when they're angry, even when they're frustrated, even when they disagree.
Yeah, because often there's a lot we can learn.
Yes.
From those raw emotions.
There's valuable insight in there. It's by understanding those concerns that we can begin to address them.
Yes.
You know, to work towards that more just and equitable society that everyone's striving for.
There was a comment that I thought really captured that sentiment.
Okay.
Quote, "Probably the most apt bird's-eye view of the unique political evolvements taking place in Samoa. Appreciate your observations," end quote.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like they're thanking us for providing that platform.
Exactly.
For the conversation, for shedding light on all the complexities.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do.
That's what we're here for.
To encourage that critical thinking.
And those diverse perspectives.
Yeah, let's hear it. Yeah, and as we kind of dug deeper into the comments, I realized how nuanced this story really is.
It is.
You know, we've heard from those who believe the system is totally corrupt.
Yeah.
And those who say, hey, we got to let due process play out.
Yeah.
But there are all these other voices, too, that add even more layers.
Right, like this comment that gets into the actual specifics of the charges against Lauli Lemalitoa.
Okay.
Quote, "Lauli Lemalitoa's defamation charges were filed by Agalu from Melopoj late last year.
Okay.
It was added to the other charges, and he was charged a few days or a week later. Lauli Lemalitoa filed charges against Papa and Kamogi sometime in 2023 for defamatory statements that Lauli Lemalitoa and former Associate Minister Veale were the ones that were involved with the hit-and-run incident that killed Tuao.
Okay.
Up till now, no charges.
Wow.
Kamasiga says they are investigating if defamatory comments were made with the help of NZ police.
Okay.
What a load of caca the Kiwis denied being involved. It's online. Papa and Kamogi were making these false accusations on a podcast.
Wow.
FST governs the country and Papa pulls the strings, lawless, end quote.
There's a lot there.
There is a lot there.
They're laying out like a timeline.
Yeah.
Pointing out inconsistencies alleging political motivations.
Yeah, and it reminds us that there's always more to the story than what we see on the surface.
It's like those machinations happening behind the scenes. Yeah. Who's pulling the strings? Who's benefiting? What are the real agendas?
And it seems like a lot of people are frustrated by that lack of transparency.
Absolutely, and it highlights the need for investigative journalism.
Yes.
Digging deeper, asking the tough questions.
Holding those in power accountable.
Exactly, that's what we need.
There's another comment that mentioned political agreements.
Oh, really?
Quote, the experiment minister and his associate were found guilty, but because HRPP and FAST leaders signed an agreement, also, he had been for PM for a long time, they were not punished. End quote. Yeah, so maybe there are these backroom deals being made.
That could compromise justice.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, are they really serving the people?
Right.
Or are they just looking out for themselves?
It's a good question.
It is a good question.
So we've got this web of alleged corruption, cultural clashes, political maneuvering, a public that wants transparency and accountability.
Yeah. It's a lot. It can feel really overwhelming.
It can.
You're just trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah,
but I think there's hope.
You do.
I do, because even though there's all this frustration and anger in these comments, there's also this resilience.
Oh, yeah.
And this desire
for
positive change. Yeah. People are speaking out.
Yes, they are.
They're demanding better from their leaders.
Yes.
And they're engaging in these conversations.
That's a good thing.
And that's a good thing. That's a sign of a healthy democracy.
Absolutely.
Even with all the messiness.
Even with the mess.
It's like they're saying, we're not going to be silent.
Right.
We're going to hold you accountable.
Yes.
And we want a better future.
We want better, and that's inspiring.
It is inspiring. That activism, that desire to fight for something better.
We need that.
We need that.
So as we wrap up,
okay,
what should our listeners take away from all this?
I think the main thing is that it's okay to be conflicted.
Yeah.
To really wrestle with all these different aspects of this situation.
It's complex.
It's complex. There's no easy answers.
No.
And it's so important to consider all sides.
Absolutely.
But ultimately, each person has to decide what they believe,
right,
what they stand for, and how they want to contribute to shaping the future of Samoa.
Well said. And this conversation doesn't end here.
Right.
Keep it going in the comments.
Yeah. Share your thoughts, share your perspective.
But respectfully.
Respectfully. Yes, we're all in this together.
We are.
Let's try to find a way forward for Samoa.
Wow. It's been really something going through all these comments.
Yeah.
It's like we're seeing all these different sides of this whole situation in Samoa.
It's fascinating to me, the people who seem like they've just accepted the way things are.
Like, this is it.
And the people who are like, no, we want change.
You deserve better.
We deserve better.
Like that comment, quote, you've yet to scratch the surface, Lolo, end quote. It's like...
They've seen it all.
Yeah, this is just how it works.
Yeah.
And then others are like...
But then you have the ones who are saying, like, quote, so no one is above the law, both government guilty of crime and stop playing games. Russian roulette.
Yeah. Yeah. Strong words.
Strong words. They're demanding accountability.
Yes.
They're saying, no, we're not going to accept corruption.
And it feels like people are really looking for someone to lead them.
A strong leader.
Through all this.
Yeah. And you see that in the comments about Lauli Malietoa.
Yeah. Sometimes it's almost like...
It's like he's a...
worship.
Yeah.
But real leadership
isn't
just about one person.
No. It's not about a savior.
Right. It's about all of us.
It's about the people.
Working together.
Participating in the process.
Holding our leaders accountable.
Exactly. And that's where public opinion is so important.
Yeah.
When people speak up.
Yeah.
When they demand transparency, when they demand justice, it forces those in power to listen.
It does.
They have to respond.
It do.
And these comments, they're a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Imagine if all these voices were amplified.
Yes.
If it turned into real action.
Protest,
yeah. Getting out there and voting.
Making our voices heard.
Making your voices heard. Because that's how change happens.
It is.
It really is.
It can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
But we have the power.
We do.
To shape our own destiny.
Yeah, we have to believe.
We do.
That change is possible.
It starts with us. So back to that question we asked at the beginning.
Okay.
What role does public opinion play?
Right. In shaping the future of Samoa?
I think the answer is pretty clear.
What do you think?
It's a big role.
It's huge.
Huge.
It's the engine driving that demand for change.
The push for accountability.
And the hope.
The hope for a better future.
Yeah, and we have to remember that public opinion isn't just one thing.
Right.
There's so many different perspectives.
It's messy.
It's messy.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
But that's how progress happens.
Yeah.
through that messy exchange of ideas.
That's how we grow.
That's how we learn.
That's how we evolve.
So to our listeners,
yeah,
your voice matters.
it does.
Don't underestimate it.
Never underestimate it.
Stay informed.
Stay engaged.
Keep those conversations going.
Yeah.
The future of Samoa
Mm-hmm.
depends on all of us.
It really does.
And change takes time.
It does.
It takes effort.
It takes commitment.
But it starts with a conversation.
It does.
A willingness to listen, to learn.
And to engage.
Yes. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah.
Into the heart of public opinion in Samoa.
It's been a journey.
It has.
Keep those conversations going in the comments below.
Yes.
Respectfully.
Respectfully.
Insightfully.
Yeah. And let's focus on building a better future.
Yes.
For Samoa.
For Samoa.
And if you enjoyed this,
yeah,
don't forget to subscribe to the Inati Creative channel.
That's right.
For more deep dives like this.
More to come.